Hello and welcome everybody to another amazing episode of the One Fear Per Year podcast, where we talk about walking through fear so that you could live your best, most incredible, most meaningful life. And I am so excited to have my next guest on with me, and I'm going to have him introduce himself. Jeff, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, hi. So great to be here. Well, my name is Jeff Salzenstein, and yes, it is Salzenstein, not Salzenstein, not Salzensteak, Sandwichburg, Stein, which I've been called all of those things when I played professional tennis. I oftentimes when people butcher my name, I remind them that, hey, I played on the pro tour, which we're going to get into in a moment, for 11 years, and they have these umpires that are in the chair and it starts the match as Salzenstein. And with each changeover and with passing of time, by the time the end, it's Salzen Steak Sandwich Berg. So it's one of those things. My name trips people up at times.
Well, I told Jeff right before we went on, I'm like, so how do you pronounce your name again? And he says it, and I just knew I probably wasn't going to get it right. So I just thought we would let the pro himself introduce himself. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for being on. I like super appreciate it and am so honored because I know that you have some great nuggets of wisdom to share with our audience. And so I just want to start by asking you, what is one fear that was a major fear in your life that you felt like you faced head on, you walked through, and you conquered?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I conquered it, but I certainly moved through it. And I've learned with what I've done with my life that moving through fear is one of the secrets to success and growth and happiness. And I always like to start in the middle of the story. It was my first year on the pro tennis tour, professional tennis tour, the ATP tour. I'm playing a second round US Open Friday night match against world number two, Michael Chang. And I'm 1 year after graduating from Stanford University, and I'm this upstart kid on the pro tour. Not a kid at 23 years old, but I felt like a kid. And I find myself playing on Arthur Ashe Stadium, 24,000 people, millions watching on TV. John McEnroe, one of the bad boys of tennis and one of my tennis idols, was announcing the match. And I get out on the court and I am just scared to death. You wouldn't know it. The TV screen, they show me, I'm an athlete. I look like I'm calm, cool, collected. But on the inside, I've got this anxiety and this stress raging through my body. I think I warmed up 3 times that day on a tennis court because I had a thought, what if I forget how to play tennis in front of all these people? That was the irrational fear. So there was stress, there was anxiety, there were a lot of chatter in my mind. And I step out on the court and I started slow. I was nervous. And typically, when we're scared and when we're fearful, we can start slow in anything we're doing with our lives that we're because we're in our heads and we're overthinking. And then at 2-all in the first set, I somehow held serve twice and I was kind of in the first set. I took my first deep breath. And the moment that I took that breath, it's almost like I grounded into my body. I found my zone. And for the next 15 minutes, I started kicking Michael Chang's ass. And the crowd's going crazy. They're like, who's this young guy? And so I went from this place of fear at the beginning of the match and even leading up to the match to this zone for the next 15 minutes. I was playing some of the best tennis in my life. Get it to 5-4. I'm 1 point away from winning the first set. I hit a great wide slice serve. I'm a lefty. My serve, I was known for my serve. I stretch out Chang. I hit a volley to the open court. He can't get. I win the first set. The crowd erupts. They're absolutely going nuts. Like, who is this guy? Where'd he come from? And the TV camera pans on me, and I'm walking back to the baseline, and I've got this smile on my face, like I've arrived. But that was the moment that the match ended. And the reason it ended is because the dominant thought in my head was, thank God you didn't embarrass yourself tonight. So even though I won the first set and I was in the zone, I still had these limiting beliefs. I still had that stress and anxiety coursing through my body. and I wasn't able to own my zone, if you will, for the rest of the match, and I lost the match. Um, but that story kind of encapsulates this idea that we can be high achievers, we can be high performers, we can achieve a lot of success. I mean, the fact that I even got to the US Open is pretty amazing. But my entire tennis career, since the time I picked up a racket at 4 years old, you're afraid. Like, you're on a court, you're nervous, you're afraid to lose, you're scared to make mistakes. So it's kind of like these micro moments or these micro events that happen every single day in tennis that mirrors life, if you will. And as a tennis player, you get used to losing a point or being afraid, and then the next point you come back again and you regulate your mind and your body. So I've had a lot of practice at this. Tennis players get a lot of practice at dealing with fear. And like I said, it never really goes away. It's always there in everything that, a lot of times we show up in whatever we're doing in our lives. But if we have the tools and we have the mindset and we have the approach, of course, we can take the steps and that inspired action to move in the right direction to accomplish what we want, even though we might be afraid.
Oh, that was such an amazing story. I literally could picture you there on the court and the feelings and the fear. And actually, I did see that YouTube video, which was just amazing. And you are a kid. You're a kid.
I'm a
Um,
kid.
but I want to go back to this thing that you said about the deep breath and the grounding into your body. Because I feel like for me, also with dealing with fear and anxiety with public speaking, for instance, um, same concept, the deep breath and the grounding into the body. So, how do you, I know you had a lot of practice every time playing tennis. Now in your life, do you have a consistent practice of deep breath and grounding in your body, or what does that look like in your life now?
Yes. Well, on a academic level, I'm certified as a heart math practitioner, and heart math has been studying the science of brain and heart coherence. That if we are in our heads all day and we're not in our hearts, that it actually takes our hearts out of rhythm, and that drains our energy and our capacity to handle situations. So if there's a stressful event in our lives, if we get cut off in traffic, if we have an argument with someone, it releases cortisol and adrenaline in the body. And that cortisol and adrenaline rages through your body for up to 8 hours after the initial event. But if you learn how to breathe in this way that the Heart Math Institute teaches, it's called heart focused breathing or coherent, quick coherence. You slow down your breath, which is, of course, everyone knows if they can slow down their breath, they can regulate themselves. You focus on the area of your heart. And then the third step is you think about a renewing emotion like gratitude, appreciation, calm, care, compassion. So, when everyone's going around saying, hey, just be grateful and be appreciative because that's going to make you feel better, it's true. It releases these hormones and it decreases the stress hormones or clears it out of the body quicker. So you go from that stress being in your body for 8 hours after the stressful event, you clear it out in 5 to 10 minutes if you have a regular practice of heart focused breathing or coherence training. So that's something that I practice. It's something that I teach. In addition, I actually have a breath work coach right now that I'm working with because I want to continue to deepen my practice, knowing how powerful the breath is. So there is cadence breathing, there's box breathing, and there's flow state breathing. All of it is designed to get us to be more present, to slow our breath down, to find a rhythm, and to get into our bodies because we spend so much time in our heads and we're not connecting our heads to our hearts. In my keynote, I talk about one of the quotes that I use is the longest journey we'll ever take is the 18 inches from the head to the heart. And a lot of us aren't taught growing up to learn how to be in our bodies, in our hearts. We're in our heads all day long. And that's the cause of a lot of stress, anxiety, worry, fear. And so if we start to learn these skills around the breath and other ways to get into the body, then we can decrease our stress, and then we can show up for others, and then we can teach others and show them how they can do it if they're open to it. And so this way of living, this way of being is free. It's accessible to all of us. It's kind of like underneath the radar. People aren't talking about it enough, but that's part of my mission, is to bring this way of living and training to the world. And as a tennis player, I was in my head a lot. But if you're going to get to top 100 in the world in tennis, which was this crazy journey, like that was never supposed to happen. That's another story for another day, but you have to be in your body. Maybe you're not in your heart, but you notice the grip pressure, the way you hold the racket. You notice your feet on the ground. You have to be aware of how your body moves. So I feel like I have a heightened sense of body awareness because of sport, because of tennis. And then that next layer for me was just to keep practicing getting into my heart more. Because again, we're not really taught that. And we don't have time to be in our heart when we're trying to beat the guy on the other side of the net. So the heart stuff comes when you're off the court. On the court, it's just having that body awareness.
Right. And being in the flow and all of that. Um, now with this breath, is this something that you do, let's say in the morning, and you have 10 minutes of I'm going to really get present? Or is it something that as events arise, that you go, oh, wait a minute, I have a tool, I'm going to use it, or both?
Sure. So think of a tennis player. If you were to say, hey, go play this tournament, this really stressful event, but don't do the breathing until you get into the stressful event, you wouldn't tell them to do that. You would say, hey, let's build a foundation where when you're not under stress, you have a higher capacity, a higher baseline with your breath work to be able to handle stressful situations. So the ideal would be just like brushing your teeth and just like eating well or whatever habit that makes your life better. You get into a regular practice of breathing. Now, I recommend with my clients or when I'm on the stage and I share this part of the conversation or this part of the framework, 3 to 5 minutes a day of heart focused breathing. You can put your hand on your heart. I often have people put their hand on their belly as well, because the belly is a good place to connect as well. And you can close your eyes or keep them open. And then you just start slowing the breath down. And you put your attention and awareness on the area of your heart. And then you think of a renewing emotion like appreciation, gratitude, compassion, care, and you put that attention in your heart. And by doing that for a few minutes a day, when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed, you start to regulate your nervous system. If you do this for 5 minutes a day for 6 to 9 weeks, the studies show that you'll improve your sleep by 36%. You'll be 49% calmer. You'll decrease anxiety, depression, and anger by 67% in just 2 months. So I always say, hey, you want to decrease your anxiety by 67? Who wants that? And everyone raises their hand. I'm like, okay, just give me 5 minutes a day. So 3 to 5 minutes in the morning or 3 to 5 minutes before bed, that can help you unwind, because a lot of us are having a lot of chatter before we're going to bed or when we wake up in the middle of the night. But you know what? Even if you're not going to do that, getting back to your original question, if you can stop and pause and take one breath in and out through your heart when you're going through some things, that pause is enough to just slow things down and maybe have a different intention or a different way of showing up, or just getting your body to recognize where you're at in the moment and getting out of the head. So all of it is in play, but the baseline would be 3 to 5 minutes a day to get started.
Totally. Well, and how they say simple, it's simple, maybe not easy because we have to be consistent. We have to make the choice. I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background. All of a sudden, the mailman came or something. um, but yes, the simple things that make such a difference if we're just committed and we show up consistently and we're intentional. It's amazing the difference that can make. Now, I ask everybody this question, and there's no wrong answer, but in your opinion, fear, we have fear on one side of things. If you were to pick an exact opposite word to fear, what word would you choose, or what comes to mind for you, something
Sure.
that is the opposite of fear?
So you hear a lot with fear, the opposite could be love. For me, what comes up is courage, having the courage to just do it anyway. It's everyone's, hear the quote, it's not the absence of fear, it's you have the fear and then you just do it anyway. So I think just having the courage is just to take inspired action and take a small step, whatever you're afraid of in life or work or career, whatever you're going through, just looking at the fear and then saying, okay, what's the next action step that I can take to move through it? And it could be as simple as I'm just going to breathe for 1 minute, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to send that email, or whatever it is, you do it anyway. And so again, I've been trained over the years to follow that methodology of just taking action, because as a tennis player, that's what you have to do. You're afraid on a court, you're scared, you're nervous. The best players in the world have fears. It's just how they manage it and how they move through it.
Absolutely. Feel the fear, do it anyway, look it in its eyeballs and just say, bring it. I got this. I got this.
Yeah, we're
And
we're also taught to be like to be afraid of the fear. And I think the work that you do and somewhat related to what I do as well is, imagine if we were all taught that it's okay to be afraid and it's okay to feel that experience and then just do it anyway. We're usually not really taught that. And so
ooh,
we're obviously we have a message. Both of us want to get out in the world and impact people in the way that actually fear is a good thing and actually adversity is a great thing. And that's what makes us grow, and it's so counter to what people are doing. But there is freedom and courage and goodness and happiness on the other side of us, just keeping up
yes.
these steps.
Yes. And the messy action. It's okay that it's not perfect. It's okay that we're learning, that it's a process. And last question, since this is one fear per year, is there something in the next year that you feel some fear around and that you want to commit to walking through or doing anyway?
So there are a couple things that I want to share around that. Uh, it's interesting on a physical level. I see a lot of these some of our friends that do these really extreme hikes or like extreme endurance stuff. And I don't really have any interest in doing, there's like a fear around that and also not an interest. So I'm curious if that's something that I will step into um, around like, I see like hiking Kilimanjaro and I see the Everesting like 29,000 feet. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And so something like that. Also, I'm going to just be completely real with you. The cold tub movement, I'm not really into cold tubs. It's not my thing. And I'm afraid of the cold. So it's probably something I should look at. Um, the last thing that I want to share that we didn't really get to, but it's my why and any fears that come up around getting on a stage and being in front of people and caring what people think, even as a motivational keynote speaker, a leadership speaker, I have this still come up for me, self-consciousness, wondering what people think. It's getting a lot better because of obviously the work that I'm doing, but one of my big whys is I lost my brother 2 years ago to a fentanyl overdose. And I'm sharing this now because it is a big why for me whenever I'm afraid, that I remind myself to get on that stage to share my brother's story as part of my story. He had an incredible transformation in his life. He struggled with addiction and mental health. And so, underneath the surface of the leadership and the peak performance training, I got to watch firsthand the success and the fears and the big emotions that he had a hard time working through. And so for me, any fears that I have about the next step in my speaking career and putting myself out there to millions of people, I'm reminded to keep going because I'm carrying his legacy on with me on my mission.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know your brother is so proud of you and the work that you're doing. And, it's not easy, even like in our own lives, to walk through fear, to do the things that we know are going to make us better human beings and to be able to impact more and make more of a difference in the world. So, thank you so much for your insight. I'm here taking notes and like being super inspired. So I just appreciate you, Jeff. And thank you for coming on with us today.
Thank you, Janice.